Oh, hi, darling. It's so great to see you on the show. Conscious conversation is something I created to kind of keep my mind sane. And also, I wanted to kind of get in touch with all of my egghead friends to help me make sense of what is happening right now, because information is coming from all over the place. Sitting at home, our businesses are all on pause. Practical advice in terms of salvaging our businesses and even perhaps finding an opportunity to thrive in these unprecedented and economic circumstances.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me here. It is lovely to be doing this with you, and I think it's a brilliant idea, and we're all in that together. And I think it's very nice that we are very supportive of each other and trying to make sense of what's happening all together. To answer your question, so my expertise is in digital entrepreneurship, as you said. I also studied marketing management and digital entrepreneurship at the master's level. So I'm very passionate about everything to do with online businesses, like online platforms, all the different monetization and business models that come because of the digital economy and so on. So I don't know that much about your market in Ibiza, and I'm based in London myself, but from what I understand and from what you've shared with me, I think it would be great for some businesses, especially in such terrible times and times that will definitely significantly affect our economy to move into the digital sector. And even if you are in retail or in kind of physical businesses, if you sell stuff online, if you have a physical product, or if you have services, whether it's talking to even doing yoga or doing some kind of wellness coaching, for example, you can still move into online and digital area. And I think that could contribute to your success in the long run as well, because this space is amazing, and it's very scalable, and it's not very crowded, and I know that many people are moving into online right now because of the situation in coronavirus, but I think the space is just like a big blue ocean, and there's enough space for all of us, and you can achieve a lot there.
And for me, it reminds me something of of an economic revolution, and something that happened in when USSR and the Soviet Union fell down, and we went through perestroika into a privatization, into a private markets, which were previously government and state owned only, and like pre-divided. And then all of a sudden, with a big crash and with a revolution, every man for himself, and everybody was just starting to grab pieces of the free market that has just become available. And so now something similar is happening, it seems to me, but it's the market has now evolved into a digital space. So we're all kind of grabbing a little digital space and putting our branding, our name on it. Yeah, so it's like reprivatization, but we're kind of privatizing this unseen hypothetical market. It's invisible, but we are, through our branding, are making it, personifying it. So how do you think this is an opportunity for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think that it's a great opportunity for all of us. And how we never have enough time, and everyone is advising everyone to go online, and why don't you sell ebooks or create a course or something like that. So I think, looking on the positive side, this is the time for all of us to move into this digital space, and we now have time. We don't have any more excuses. This is the time for us to learn all the digital skills that we need, and to come up with all the different creative ways of how we can move our businesses into this online space. So I see lots of different opportunities, and even for industries. Just today, actually, I was talking to my partner at meals, and we were discussing how restaurants and chefs are struggling right now, because even if you have a physical product, or say a clothing brand, you can still easily kind of move into online space. But if you're a chef and you work full time at a restaurant, it's very difficult to find how exactly you can move your services into this digital space. But even with such conservative areas, especially with this manual labor kind of services. I mean, there is still a way to move into online. So for chefs and restaurants, for example, we've decided to approach them and encourage them to share their recipes on meals, and create cooking courses there as well to monetize that content. And because they're sitting at home, for example, and everyone is stressing out because they might lose their job, or at least not have their job for a few more weeks or maybe even months, this is a good opportunity to come up with all the creative ways of how you can earn money online.
This is for freelancers. This advice is relevant to freelancers. So it's whether you are a private chef or a coach or a teacher, for example, right? This would be very relevant for you in terms of, jumping on there and just putting all of your intellectual content and all of your methodology into videos and start to package that and share that wisdom with people.
I think a lot of it is about the content and the knowledge, because this is mainly how you bring value to other people and other businesses. But I think it applies to not just freelancers, it applies to businesses. And, for example, if you have a clothing brand, you don't necessarily have to create a lot of content. You can just create a very nice website and offer a very unique and good user experience, and stand out in terms of branding, for example, and find like this kind of very nice ways of selling your clothes. So it's not necessarily that you have to become a stylist and then do a course on how to create a new look, for example. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about creating content, although I think for many industries and businesses and freelancers, creating content is one of the main challenges and main selling points in general.
Now we can see that, the online market will only be developing and growing in its value. And we're kind of being forced to reevaluate the priorities in our life.
To be honest, I think the whole world is changing. And I think this is kind of like a nice push for us to reprioritize and change the way we do business in general, how we consume, and even on more unconscious level, and kind of how we build relationship with our friends and family, and from that to up to how you shop online, and your consumer experience. I was watching a video on World Economic Forum, and it showed how just 2 weeks of official lockdown, 2 or 3 weeks of official lockdown affected the food system, and how the fact that the borders are closed, for example, affected the strawberry market, because somewhere in America they're growing strawberries, and every single year around this time, April or May, they ask 10,000 Mexicans to come and help them collect the strawberries, pick the strawberries, and now they can't. So they lost a lot of labor power, and there's no one to collect the strawberries, so we're not actually going to have that much strawberries in for summer, for example. And these small things, and it affects all different industries, and you think, I think when we live on the daily basis, we don't really think of these things. We just go to the supermarket and we're very used to the fact that strawberries are always there, right? So we don't think about what's behind it. But this is just a small example, but I'm just saying that I think the whole world is changing, and all different industries, and I don't think it will necessarily I think it will go back to normal, but I think this normal will be different from what we're used to have, both because businesses will change the way they work, and also because people will change the way they see the world in general. Well, first of all, I'm thinking a lot about how much time we spend consuming products. So I think that will change for sure. I think we will prioritize the essentials in general, even when it comes to clothes or, to staying fit, for example. I think it's time for us to reflect and kind of choose what we love the most, and instead of consuming everything, we will choose and be very picky about what we really want in our life. And I think it's great, actually. For businesses, I think it's very good as well, because it will make them find a better suited target audience in a way. and the customers who will stay with them will be very loyal.
In terms of the communication between the brand and their audience becoming a lot more clear, and us perhaps even kind of cutting out this whole advertising manipulative communication with our audiences, where as previously adapted for quite a long time, and accepted collectively, a lot of brands do sell you things that you don't need for the money that you don't have, and perhaps this is one of the first kind of recalculations of value reevaluation that we're going to go through, as those consumers. What is the brand that speaks to me authentically? What is the brand that represents my lifestyle? What is the brand that's already tackling, for example, my issues, right, and providing solutions? So it will, like, let's say our consumer experience will become a lot more personal. Quality and authenticity I see being the further drives,
But I've been quite inspired by a lot of people who are trying to move into online, and it's from everything. So I work with a lot of chefs, and they've started doing a lot of online cooking videos, and it's pretty amazing because they just do it in a very simple way on Instagram Live, and then you can see like hundreds and hundreds of people joining and either cooking together or just watching them cook. My mom, for example, started teaching yoga online, which was a great breakthrough for her. And I remember she called me and she was like, well, I can't really see my customers now because I'm not allowed to, but girls really want to do yoga with me, so what should I do? And I'm like, Mom, but look at all the bigger companies. Here in London we have all those gyms who are doing training sessions online on Instagram. So I was like, maybe you should start teaching online, and then you can expand and have clients not just from Geneva, that's where she lives right now, but from all over the world. Tourism in general as well, and because we travel a lot, and I know a lot of young people who love doing cultural tours. Like every time I go to France, for example, I would want someone to walk with me around Paris or south of France and tell me more about monuments and buildings. I love learning about the history of like a random house, for example. And again, this is the job that normally would require you to dress up, go outside, get a group of people, and then hang out with them together. Now they can't do that, obviously. So they've started creating content online to share their knowledge about their cities. I think it's pretty amazing because, I love traveling. I travel, several times a month, and I miss traveling. So for me, it would be really fun to sit at home and learn about a city and, join a virtual tour, for example. And same, I'm sure you've seen it, same with a lot of cultural activities as well. So there are people who are playing music now online. There's Bolshoi Theater in Moscow who are streaming their performances now. And again, I think this is pretty amazing. Of course, the experience is very different, and you can argue that, going to a theater is very different to sitting at home and watching it on your TV. But if you think about how many people there are who can't go to Bolshoi Theater because, they don't want to travel to Russia, they don't have, they can't afford it, for example, or it's not their priority. It's pretty amazing that they can go on YouTube and watch the performance live. So I think there are quite a lot of positive in this situation.
I agree with you. Something really wonderful happens to a human being when that human being gets pushed in a corner. We are somehow under pressure. We are forced to morph out of our current shape into a different one. And right now what's happening is that we're all kind of collectively being kind of put into this limitation that is forcing us to kind of create completely take a different shape in order to kind of avoid this feeling of being isolated and suppressed. And what it does to us collectively is it brings out the creative streak a lot, because we have to be creative in order to adapt to the current situation. Like, that's the only thing that really is going to help us right now is our imagination, now creativity. People are coming up with talk shows, people are coming up with all kinds of live streams, they are beautiful community people who are gathering all kinds of information together under one umbrella. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. I mean, when we're forced into limitation, this is where things can get really interesting, because we have an opportunity to move the market in a way it's never been moved before. And I think through this beautiful collective reevaluation of things that matter, versus things that don't, we have a collective opportunity to paint such a more beautiful picture. I don't want to sound too utopian, but I do really believe in this.
I think people are very innovative in general. And I think this is exactly why we are where we are right now, because we've had so many different opportunities and we love creating. Like, if you look at the humankind, we always keep creating new things, and re-innovating different industries. And so I think this is just another wave for us. And I mean, there are many sad things about the virus and the lockdown, but I think in general, if we focus on ourselves and our businesses and try to find this, as you said, creative way to overcome this challenge, I think we will, we will do much better in the long run. Business level, I think it's definitely cheaper because you don't have to pay for the office. I personally think that people can be a lot more productive because there's no office politics. Yeah, less interaction, so people are more productive because you can be a little bit more picky and work with freelancers who are very good at whatever they do. So you can work with the best talents out there. If your business is online, like mine, for example, and for specific departments like customer service, which requires a 24/7, someone to be there for 24/7.
Maintenance, yeah.
Yeah,
Customer
exactly.
service.
Exactly. This is great because you can work with some people in, I don't know, Australia, America, Russia, and Philippines, for example, so that they cover all around the clock your customer service. And on a personal level, I think it's very good to work with different cultures in general, support third world economy as well, if you can. But then there are also challenges, of course, because sometimes it's harder to motivate people. So you need to make sure that you can build a culture. Even if you work just on Zoom or Slack, for example, you need to make sure that people are staying productive, they're motivated. You need to make sure that your standards are high and morals are good as well, so that if you work with freelancers, for example, you need to make sure that you pay them a nice salary, because there's a lot of criticism about how freelancers are always underpaid, for example. But again, I think if you are building a very sustainable company and you want to work with the best people out there, you have to make sure that you treat them well, like in any other company, whether remote or not, that the salaries are good, that the culture is good, and that people are motivated and inspired to work with you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It was so fantastic to have you.
I'm the one who is very grateful.